Welcome everyone to our webinar for tonight. This is the second webinar this summer on the series of the effects of the pandemic on different business topics, on different groups of people, on different industries. We are happy to be here tonight with two panelists and three hosts hosting this event together. We had a successful first webinar, and that webinar already had almost 3,000 views. So we welcome every one of you attendees from wherever you are. I want to share with you that this webinar is organized by Middle East University here in Sabtieh, Beirut, in Lebanon, and it's organized by the Faculty of Business Administration in collaboration with the Business Club, our aggregation of students from the Faculty of Business. For those of you who are not familiar with Middle East University, this university is an international university with more than 30 nationalities represented between students and faculty and staff. It's a gorgeous, green, clean, healthy campus overlooking the city of Beirut. So you are welcome to come and visit us whenever you have time here in Sabtieh. As we do with all events here at MEU, we want to invite God to be with us and to bless us in this webinar, so it can be a blessing for each one of us. I will make a prayer to invite God to be with us. Dear Father in heaven, thank you for the opportunity you give us to learn from each other, to grow, and to help each other during these very difficult and challenging times we are living in Lebanon and across the world. I want to invite you to be present and to lead our discussion, our presentations, our questions and answers, that you may lead us so we can grow and we can receive wisdom from you to cope with this challenging situation. We pray all the things in the name of Jesus. Amen. I want to give a few logistic announcements for all of you who are watching in our Facebook page. Some of you chose to attend this webinar for free. Others of you have chosen to participate with the certificate. If you chose to participate and receive a certificate, I want to remind you that we need to record your attendance. You need to record your attendance by clicking in the like or in the share here buttons in Facebook in the live streaming, or by writing a comment here. One thing that I would like you to ask to write here in the comment section is from which country you are watching our webinar. Are you from Lebanon? Are you from Saudi? Are you from the US? From which country you are participating, so we can acknowledge your presence and greet you later on. Also, I want to encourage all of you to make the reach of this webinar stronger and larger by creating a watch party in your wall. Here down below the image, the video, you can click in watch party and you will be rebroadcasting live the webinar in your wall, so all your friends can also know about it and they can also benefit from it. I want to introduce to you now our two co-hosts that will be hosting this webinar with me, and then they will introduce the two panelists for tonight. Karim Beshara is the secretary of our MEU Business Club. She is now becoming a junior in our Bachelor of Business Administration with a concentration in international business. Welcome, Karim. How are you tonight?
Good evening. I'm so happy that I'm participating in this webinar with such amazing mentors like you and the co-host, Mr. Rafat, and the leading panelists also. It's an honor for me to be with them in this webinar.
Thank you, Karim. I want to introduce also Mr. Refat Abdallah. He holds an MBA degree with an emphasis in management and marketing from the University of the East, Manila, Philippines. He also holds a Bachelor of Science in Accounting from Philippine Union College. He has taught at the university level for over 28 years. He has a lot of experience. He is currently the academic advisor for the Marketing, Management, and International Business majors at Middle East University, as well as the course coordinator for most marketing and management courses at LIU, Lebanese International University here in Lebanon. He is also serving as the Dean of Students at MEU. His ability to work in team is demonstrated by the various functional committees he is part of, such as the Finance Committee, Strategic Planning Committee, and Management Committee. Living in various countries and cultures allows him to adapt quickly, get along with a variety of people, and work with a diverse team. Welcome, Refat. How are you tonight?
Thank you, Carlos. Thank you, Amin. Nice to have you. Thank you, Mr. Khawly. Nice to have you. Hi, Karine. Hi, everybody. We are happy that we can join together for the next couple of hours, talking and discussing some of the problems, and we hope we can come up with a solution that is satisfactory to everybody.
Thank you, Refat. Now, Karine and then Refat will introduce our two distinguished panelists tonight.
I will start with introducing Mr. Amin Khalad, which is a Lebanese working in Jeddah KSA. He holds a BS in Management from AUST and an MBA from Middle East University. Amin worked more than 10 years as a manager in operations in the restaurant industry in Lebanon, such as Applebee's, Roadster Diner, and Dick Duke. He also worked as HR talent manager at Roadster Diner and Dick Duke. Amin is currently the Director of Learning and Development and Lead Consultant at Leap to Success, a training and consultancy company operating in the Middle East, based in Dubai, with offices in Jeddah, KSA, and Kuwait. Welcome, Mr. Amin.
Thank you for having me.
Refat, please introduce Mr. Nehme.
Hi, Mr. Nehme. How are you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Fine. Nice to have you on with us on this presentation. Let me just tell you a little bit of information about Mr. Khawly.
But first, I have something to say. Sorry that I'm not hearing you very well. I don't know what's the problem in my laptop. I tried it in the morning with Dr. Carlos. It was doing well. It's just okay if you are hearing me well.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
The problem is that I cannot hear you well. This is the problem.
Carlos, can you hear me? I mean, can you
I
hear
can
me?
hear you, but it's very low. I tried to increase the volume. It wasn't working well. I don't know what's the problem. Maybe I clicked on something by mistake.
I can call you Nehme through WhatsApp so you can have the audio from the other device.
Ah, okay.
Shall I go ahead?
That's fine.
Mr. Khawly, can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. I can hear you, but the volume is not very high. I can hear you from far, but it's good.
Okay, let me say a few words about you, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Nehme Elias Khawly has been working on the retail industry, and specifically, he runs and operates, a supermarket for many years, and he also has a shareholder and general manager of a middle-sized family business that is composed of two chain supermarket, Khawly Supermarket and Superstore, the supermarket. And he's an importer-distributor company. And beside his business, Mr. Khawly also is the Honorary Consul General of the Republic of Sudan to Lebanon.
South Sudan.
Yeah, South Sudan, correct. So now you can hear me.
I can hear you, but it's low.
Okay, fine. So Mr. Khawly is the General, Consul General of the Republic of the South Sudan to Lebanon, and also being the head of the mission and the Sudan to Lebanon. He has, a master's degree of Financial Economics and a bachelor degree from the American University of Beirut. And at the same time, he's pursuing his PhD in the international relation and research line of political economic. And also he's doing a PhD in Spain in the Geoeconomics and the Geostrategy. Welcome, Mr. Nehme. Nice to have you with us. And we're waiting
for having me.
From you and to learn from your experience in the real market.
Pleasure. So we will start now. First of all, I would like to thank Professor Carlos Biaggi for creating this webinar and for giving me the opportunity and pleasure to share my business experience. And also, I would like to thank you, Mr. Rifat Abdallah, for introducing me, as well as Ms. Karim Chara. And I would like to welcome the other panelists, Mr. Amin Khalad, as well as all the auditors joining us right now. So the webinar, it's about the small and medium-sized enterprises, the impact of the pandemic on the SMEs, and in my turn as the General Manager of Khawly Superstore and Supermarket, I will be happy to share my experience with you. First of all, before I start, I would like to make a small introduction of our business, but I have to share the screen so that you can see my, my PowerPoint. Okay, so now you can see. Does it appear? Okay. So our business, it's a family business composed of a chain of two branches of supermarkets, Khawly Supermarket and Khawly Superstore. We have been in the business for almost 30 years, since 1991. I was 4 years old at that time. And in addition to that, we have an import distribution company under the name of Commercial Relay, which has been 15 years ago, in 2003. In this webinar, I will be focusing only on the supermarkets. However, I will mention about the import distribution company and what is related to the supermarkets in a way. And regarding...
Can you enlarge your screen?
Yes, please click on the
yeah, okay.
Or F5.
Sorry.
That's okay.
So as I was saying, that I will be focusing on the supermarkets, and I will mention what is related between the import distribution company and the supermarket and what is related. In the terms of size, according to the commercial Lebanese law, there is no article that defines the characteristics of the size of the business, whether it's small, medium, or large. But the Ministry of Finance, it classifies the companies, or if you want the taxpayers, as high taxpayers or low taxpayers according to the level of sales turnover that they have attained. And for our case, we are classified as high taxpayers because we have reached a certain level of sales turnover every year. I will consider our business to be a medium-sized business in this webinar because I admit that there are larger supermarkets in Lebanon with more branches and more employees, although the number of our employees is around 120, which could be considered as fair. Before I start as well, it's important to mention that the pandemic times, I think the case for Mr. Amin Khalad is different. He is now, he will talk about the situation from Saudi Arabia. In Lebanon, the case is different. The lockdown, the pandemic has started at the same time as the financial crisis, when it got at its worst times, when the dollar started to jump, and therefore the depreciation of the Lebanese lira rapidly every day. So it is very challenging to separate the two crises from each other. However, I will try as much as possible in this webinar to isolate the effect of each crisis in order to better convey the message to you. I will start about the impact of the pandemic on the sales. I have created two graphs, a graph for the nominal value of the sales and a graph for the real value of the sales. What does this mean? Nominal value, it means I have set the sales in terms of the Lebanese lira currency, and the real value, I have set them in US dollars. Why is that? I will explain this in a few minutes. We will start with the first graph. This is the nominal value of our sales. Sorry for not showing the numbers because it's somehow confidential. I just removed the numbers from the left of the screen. In this graph, I'm showing 3 months before the pandemic, which are December, January, February, and 3 months of the pandemic, March, April, and May. The highest peak, as you can see in this graph, it's somewhere in March, specifically on the 11th of March. It is when Ministry of Interior has announced the total lockdown of the country. So people ran to the supermarkets on 3 consecutive days, I guess, as we can see, 11, 12, and 13. And then it started to gradually decrease to get their things. And also, if you can see, we have another crest or another peak in May. It is exactly on the 13th of May when the Ministry of Interior and municipalities have announced a total lockdown of 3 days during the second phase of the pandemic, especially when the number of infected people with the coronavirus was increasing due to the Lebanese return from abroad, and they are still returning until now. We have a peak also in April, if you can see it, specifically on the 11th of April, and this is due to the Easter holidays. People were buying their food and stuff in order to celebrate Easter. Also, we have 2 peaks in December. These are irrelevant to neither crisis, nor the financial crisis, neither the financial crisis nor the pandemic. We have one which is related to the Christmas Eve, 24th of December, and another one on the 31st, which is related to the New Year's Eve. So it's, as you can see, it's very obvious. We had a positive impact of the pandemic on our sales. Unfortunately, I would not like to say that, and I would not wish for the pandemic to come again. As you can see, there is a positive impact. What does this mean? Why we had a positive impact on our sales? As you know, the supermarket business, it was one of the, maybe it was the only business operating during the time of the lockdown, in addition to healthcare businesses such as pharmacies or pharmaceutical companies and medical companies. People had nothing to do. They just had to stay at home, eat all the time, even and buying disinfecting products. Even we have seen on the social media, on the stories on Instagram and Facebook, how people, they have discovered their cooking talents during the pandemic. So they had nothing but to buy their things from the supermarkets. Now I will move to the second graph. It is, this graph shows the real value of the sales, or the sales in US dollars. It resembles the previous graph. However, as you can see, after March, or during the pandemic and the financial crisis, which they coincided at the same time, you can see how the sales started to decrease in real terms, and this is the effect of the depreciation of our local currency. I will move to the next slide to show you both graphs and the difference of both graphs. It was very hard to put, actually it's not hard, it's impossible to put both lines on the same graph. Why? Because the nominal values, which are the Lebanese liras, they are measured in tens and hundreds of millions of Lebanese lira. However, the real values in US dollars, they are measured in thousands. So I couldn't put them in the same graph. The line for the dollar, it will appear just as a flat line or negligible relative to the one of the Lebanese lira. But we can compare. As you can see, the peak that happened in May, its real value is different from the nominal value. And this is the effect of the financial crisis and the depreciation of the local currency. As you can see, because in May, the dollar has reached 4,500 Lebanese pounds, which is just triple the normal value. And today, unfortunately, I heard that it have reached 7,000 Lebanese pounds, unfortunately. So this is the effect of the pandemic, of the financial crisis. As you can see, the peak in March, it was way farther than the peaks in December. As you can see in the real values in the second graph, the peak is closer to the ones of December. Now, why I am setting the real values in US dollars? The real value, because we are living a reality. Our reality lies in the US dollars. As Dr. Philip Zgheib said 2 weeks ago in our previous webinar, that our country, our economy is fully dollarized economy. It's a fully importing economy. Everything in Lebanon is imported. Everything is imported. Don't tell me that we have an industrial sector. We do not have an industrial sector because we have our own private label brands and we work with the industries. We do not have an industrial sector. All the machinery and equipment in the industrial sector are imported. Everything is imported. We can call it a packaging sector or a packing sector. We do not have an industrial sector. The raw materials are imported. The packaging material is imported. Even the labor is imported. The Lebanese people, they do not work in the labor as labor in the industrial sector. Everything is imported. So it's very important to show the real values in US dollars because the companies and the suppliers, they need fresh cash money in order to transfer because their US accounts have been freezed. They cannot do anything with them. They have to transfer fresh cash money in order to import, unfortunately. So this slide, it shows the difference, if you want. I tried as much as possible to show you on the first graph the pandemic effect, and in the second graph the financial crisis effect. Now I will start talking about the costs. What happened with our costs during the pandemic? We have witnessed a reduction in the variable cost. As you know, the total cost is the fixed cost plus variable cost. We had a reduction in the labor cost, specifically with the employees, because when the lockdown has started, the Ministry of Interior has set new early closing times for the supermarkets. And some days it was at 7 p.m. and other days it was at 6 p.m. and in other days at the end it became at 7 p.m. So due to the early closing, we were in less need of our part-timers, because our normal time it was until 10 p.m. So we were in less need of the part-timers in order to fulfill this gap after 5 p.m. until 10 p.m. Moreover, when the lockdown has started, when the pandemic has started, our employees, they got scared. Actually, everyone got scared at the beginning. And they started to apply or sign letters and petitions in order to have their annual leaves. So in general, we have witnessed reduction in labor costs. And since I'm talking about the employees, I would like to avail the opportunity to talk about their motivation and productivity, although it's not part of the webinar. Actually, as I said at the beginning, that the employees, they were scared, but later on, when they realized the importance of taking their precautions, they kind of got adapted to the situation, and they started to enjoy the early closing time, because we have some employees who work until 10 p.m. So they started enjoying leaving work at 5 p.m. So this has increased their motivation. And what increased their motivation as well is the change in the consumer behavior that we will talk afterwards about. The customers, they were less complaining during the time of the pandemic. They were masked all the time and they were wearing gloves, and they barely wanted to spend time in the supermarket. They just wanted to grab their things and leave as soon as possible. So this has increased the motivation of the employees. Also, they felt that their productivity has increased as well, because they saw themselves selling more, as I have shown you that how our sales have increased. They saw themselves selling more while putting the same effort as they used to do before. So they felt that their productivity has increased. The second issue I would like to talk about in the costs, it is the increase in precaution and safety costs. During the pandemic, we have incurred precaution costs. We had to offer our employees masks and gloves. Even we had the employees also, they had to often change them whenever they come in contact with anything or anyone. Also, we had to offer every client that enter our shops, around 4,000 clients a day, which is not a small number. This is what appears in the receipts of our cashiers. So we had to offer them a pair of gloves for every client. And also we had to assign in each branch 2 employees to measure the temperatures of the people, which is a total of 4 employees. In case they had a fever, they were prevented from entering our shops, and this was a decision by the Ministry of Public Health. Also, we had to incur the cost of sterilization. We used to sterilize our shop twice a day. The first time before at around noon or a little bit before, and the second time in the afternoon after our early new closing time. The third issue regarding the costs, actually it's not a cost, but it's something that we have lost during the pandemic. It's the loss of our credit payment system. One of the main advantages of the supermarket is that it enjoys this system where the supermarket, it receives in cash its income, normally from the clients in cash at the cashiers, at the points of sales. And it pays its dues on credit terms with the companies, depending on the contract done with each company. With some companies, it is on 30 days, with some other companies on 45 days, others 60 days, other 90 days, etc. So what does this mean? This means that the supermarket, it lives in debt always, while holding at the same time in its hand high amount of liquidity. Very high amount of liquidity. What happened during the pandemic is that we lost this credit system, and we had to pay back everything cash immediately to the companies. The companies were not accepting anymore to take check banks, because, as you know, the banks were closed during the lockdown. And even we should not forget that in general, the banking system, it was unstable since before the pandemic. It was unstable since the revolution has begun on October 17 of the past year. So that's why they wanted everything back in cash. And therefore, what happened as a result, we lost this high amount of liquidity that we had in hand. This amount of liquidity that we could have used to invest in other things in our business, maybe to buy new machinery, to buy new equipment, maybe for maintenance, for expansion. Already we were expanding one of our branches, the one in Saptiye. We stopped for a while due to the pandemic and the financial crisis. But we have always to look at a positive side in our life and everything. There was an advantage by losing this credit system, and the advantage is that we have witnessed a huge reduction in our debt, around 75%. We have paid around 75% of our debt. As I said, that the supermarket, it lives in debt. Now we have paid around 75% of our debt. I think now we have reached around 80% of our debt, which is something amazing. Now I will talk about the profits. For the supermarkets, they have a stable or a fixed profit margin. There are specific fixed percentages for every item that are set by the Ministry of Economy. the Ministry of Economy, it sets a fixed profit margin for what it calls the food basket. We have heard about the food basket. In Arabic, it's called as-salla al-ghidaiya. And the food basket consists of bread, grains, dairy, and fresh products such as meat, chicken, also something I did not mention, maybe also the sanitary products. So there are fixed margins of profits that we are not allowed to overpass. Also, there is normally that the Lebanese economy, it operates in a free competitive market, and we have free competition. We have a lot of competition in Lebanon. Lebanon is a very small country, and there are lots of supermarkets. If the Lebanese, they hear that a supermarket in the north of Lebanon, in Tripoli, they are selling brands at cheap prices, they will go there and buy them. It will just take them 1 hour by car. So the competition by itself, it's a constraint for the profit of any business, not just the supermarket industry, but the supermarkets, because it's the most common business in the world, and especially in Lebanon. So normally, if you want to talk now about our case, the increase in sales have increased our profits. As you can see in this simple formula, even the non-business majors can understand it. As sales increase, profits increase, but still we are meaning the increase of profits in nominal terms, which is in the Lebanese lira. If we want to see the real value of our profits, of course, it is a decline as well, as a result of the depreciation of the local currency. If we didn't have a financial crisis now, I wouldn't have been talking about nominal and real and I don't know what. I would be just showing our sales, the impact of the pandemic in nominal terms, in Lebanese lira, and but I am obliged to show you the result of the financial crisis in order to explain to you the reality. We had a positive impact on our business due to the pandemic, but this positive impact was offset by the worst financial crisis that has ever happened to Lebanon. Now I will move to the consumer demand and behavior. As I mentioned earlier, that the consumer behavior has changed in a way that they were less complaining during the pandemic. They barely wanted to spend time in the supermarkets. They wanted to leave quickly. They were scared, masked, and they were wearing gloves. It was very complicated for them. And also, we have witnessed also a change in their demand from two aspects. First of all, the pandemic aspect, as you know, and as Dr. His name, Joseph Ghassan, Dr. Ghassan, in the previous webinar 2 weeks ago, he was saying that we live in limited income and we should always save an income for 3 months ahead because we don't know what might happen. So people were living with a limited income for an unknown period of time. They did not know when they will go back to their normal life and work again. So they tried as much as possible to shift to cheaper brands of every item in order to, if you want to say, in order to prolong or to extend their living based on the limited income that they have it saved. Also, the people faced somehow like an opportunity cost, if we want to economically speaking, the opportunity cost. They have foregone some of the things that they used to like to buy before, and they have replaced them with pandemic products or precaution products, such as masks, gloves, white alcohol, and disinfecting liquids such as Dettol. Dettol has had the biggest share during the pandemic, and also chlorine. In Lebanon, the brand is known as Clorox. This is from the pandemic side. From the financial crisis side, people also, because their income started to lose its value and to depreciate, all the Lebanese incomes are in Lebanese lira, except those who work in multinational companies who receive their incomes from abroad in US dollars. So most of the Lebanese people, they have shifted to cheaper brands, especially for the items, for the inferior goods. And what do we mean by inferior goods? Economically speaking, inferior goods are not the goods that are not needed. They are needed goods, but They are not the necessities. They are goods that we need, but we can live without. So normally, as prices increase, or in cases of inflation, the prices of the demand on inferior goods will decrease, and people go to substitutes. Examples of inferior goods could be the coffee brand, maybe, or the type of cheese, or the sweets, maybe the chocolate. For example, many people have during these bad times, they have shifted from eating Twix and Snickers and Kit Kat into local made chocolates such as Gandour, Unica. Personally, I like the Unica more than the other brands. So this is from the financial crisis aspect. So now I have said everything related to the impact on the business. Now I would like to talk about our future plans. Of course, the first thing we are doing now is that we are searching for new, cheaper brands, new alternatives, new brands for every item, because we want to retain our clients. We want as much as possible to secure for our clients cheaper brands with good quality at the best price, brands that could be suitable for their limited income that is losing its value every day. It's losing its value, and we are doing that through local suppliers and through foreign suppliers. With the foreign suppliers, through our import and distribution company that I talked about, the commercial Relay, we are importing. We have been importing for 17 years private label brands. We have our own private label brands that we have created, and we import them from various countries, from Greece, from Italy, from Turkey, from Egypt, from China, from Malaysia, from Thailand, many countries. And I would like also Professor Carlos Biaggi one day to create a webinar on private labeling and importing and the role of customs and logistics. It's very important especially for business students to know such practical information. The second thing I would talk about, it's the e-commerce. We have seen during the pandemic how many people, most of the people, how they relied on online shopping applications. However, we were not much affected by this thing, maybe because thanks to our loyalty card membership program that we have, where our customers are attached to us in a way that whenever they make their purchases, they collect points, and later on they redeem these points with a relative cashback in which they can buy whatever they want from our shops, of course. But if we had the online platform or online shopping application, of course, we would have better operated during such times. So we will start on working on making an online platform for online shopping. And also we are willing to display our brands on other existing platforms and applications, such as, I'm not familiar with them, but I know some names like Totters and InstaShop maybe. The third plan that we are working on is expansion. Actually, this is not a new plan. We have already been enlarging our Satya branch known as Khawly Superstore, the one which is near next to the neighborhood of Middle East University, but we have stopped for a while due to the pandemic and the financial crisis, and we always have the opportunity to search for new areas and have new branches. But the opening in new areas, this is of course not in the near future due to the bad times we are passing through. So this is everything I had to say regarding the webinar. I was asked to give an advice to small and medium enterprises. Maybe the advice that I would give is the same one that my father always used to tell me and to teach me about. He always used to tell me, don't make a step bigger than yourself, or don't make a step bigger than your size. This advice, my father, he says it after an experience of 40 years in the retail industry, especially in the supermarket industry. And he has made his business grow step by step, and I'm very proud to say that he has started his business from a very small ice cream shop and later on to a a larger shop, and then to a bigger one, and then to a mini market, and then to a supermarket, and then to another branch of a bigger supermarket, and then to an import distribution company. And we thank God that everything is owned by us, from the land to the buildings, to the equipments, machinery, even the warehouses are all owned by us. Our warehouses are dispersed over 5 cities in Lebanon. So I often question myself during the pandemic, what would have happened to us if for example, we were credited by the banks, or if we had to pay back our debt, especially if it was in US dollars. I think that we would have simply shut down. So my advice to the small and medium enterprises is that don't make a step bigger than yourself. Don't make a step bigger than your size. Don't take credits from the banks that you are not sure you will return it back, because otherwise you will not be able to survive any crisis. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nehme. We will read now some of the questions we are receiving.
Now I will struggle to hear the questions.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, hardly.
Okay. Karine, you want to go or shall I go?
As you wish.
Actually, I can hear best Ms. Karine.
Okay, so I'll talk. Mr. Hussein Karake said, what is the role of microfinance in this crisis?
What is the role of microfinance in this crisis?
Yes.
You know, now today we have heard that the Speaker of the Parliament, Mr. Nabih Berri, he was saying that that the central bank should announce the emergency, the financial emergency in the country. Actually, now there are no solutions, and there isn't anything that could help in solving this crisis. This crisis is just, and I asked it as a question in the previous webinar, it's just a political problem. It's just a political problem. We are being punished by certain sides. I do not want to talk about politics now. We are an independent country, and we have an independent central bank that prints our currency, which is the Lebanese lira. But unfortunately, our reality lies in the US foreign currency is not being printed by us. The problem. I don't think there is a role for neither microfinance nor macrofinance, and not anything in this crisis. Actually, the theme of our webinar, it's the pandemic and not the financial crisis. But I tried to mention it in order because I could not neglect it.
Another question by Christ Alive. If a medium enterprise is selling well during pandemic period, you are paying high taxes accordingly. Is it parallel? Paying high taxes and selling well during the pandemic.
Sorry, can you repeat the question, because it was the connection was cut?
If a medium enterprise is selling well during pandemic period, you are paying high taxes accordingly. Isn't it parallel?
No, it's not parallel. Actually, we would be very happy to pay high taxes if we are selling more. So it's not parallel, because still the taxes that we pay, they are less than the profit margins that we get, and otherwise we would have closed our business long time ago.
I just have one question. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. The same lady is asking, can you explain the relationship between reduction in variable and increase of efficiency? How does this work?
Can you say it again, please? The relation between what?
the relation between reduction in variable cost and increasing of efficiency. How can the two work together?
No, actually, the reduction in the what I meant was the reduction in the labor cost, and the labor cost, it's part of the variable cost. We had a reduction in the labor cost due to the early closing times, and we were closing early, operating less, and selling more. This is what I get. So this is what I meant. So it was, if you want, a double advantage. And regarding the efficiency, it's not related to the reduction in the variable cost. I just, as I said, that I want to take the opportunity or to avail the opportunity to talk about the motivation and productivity of the employees because I mentioned the labor cost. That's why. There is no relation.
Okay, let me just follow up. Somebody is asking, how can you call a brand inferior? I mean, a brand is a commercial name that distinguishes a company.
No, I did not say an inferior brand. I said an inferior good.
Yeah, but even an inferior good is basically considered to be an essential good. So basically, when you relate to goods as
no, I said I was very clear when I said the inferior good. It's a good that we need to have in our lives, but it is not a necessity. It is not bread. It is not dairy products. It is not baby milk. It is not meat. It is not vegetables. These are the necessities. It's not sanitary products. The food basket that the Ministry of Economy has set contains the necessities. What I was talking about, the inferior goods, are not the necessities, are things that we buy. Who among us does not drink coffee in the morning? The coffee is an inferior good. Who among us does not need to eat sweets or chocolates or these inferior goods? You can call them the secondary goods, that you can substitute them, but the necessities you cannot substitute them.
Thank you. I
hope that I have answered the questions. I hope that I have answered what they wanted to hear.
Well, I'm only just reading the questions that the viewer have asked.
Another attendee, Anthony, is asking, should the central bank stop the support on oil to save some dollars?
You are asking, sorry?
Should the central bank stop the support on oil to save some dollars?
The central, I'm not hearing, sorry.
Okay. Maybe Karin, can you read?
Yes, sure. Anthony said, should the central bank stop the support on oil to save some dollars?
Stop the support on oil to save. You have to ask me something. It's not, I mean, oil, it's not in my industry to talk about.
Okay, next question. Would you say that the decrease in your debt by 80% will have an impact on your interest tax shield?
On my interest tax sheet?
Yes.
When I said the decrease, sorry, can you repeat the question?
Okay.
The reduction in my, the reduction
the decrease in your debt
this debt
will
that
affect
No, not at all. This is the debt that I had to pay back to the companies. It doesn't have to do at all with the taxes.
Next question from George. Can you try to explain the new relationship between the superior products and the niche market in Lebanon during this pandemic situation? Are they going to disappear with the decreasing of importation?
Which goods? Sorry, I heard the question, but which goods?
the superior products and the niche market. Example, cigars, caviar.
Nothing will stop to be imported, but they will become more expensive because the dollar is increasing every day. The price of the dollar is increasing every day, and the goods being imported will increase every day. I have also to point something here regarding this question. Like to know why prices increasing every day in the supermarkets. This is because the supermarkets, as well as the companies, the suppliers, are running out of stocks. Therefore, every day we are making new orders. And that explains the increases in the prices. Of course, there are several or many supermarkets that will take advantage in order to benefit from this situation and to increase their prices, to make more profits, to increase the price of the goods that are. This is unethical, and they paid a penalty from the Ministry of. It's around 50 million liras. So, witnessing increases in prices, and the superior and niche products, it's just that the prices.
Mr. Ziad is asking.
There will always be people with these products.
Mr. Khawly, Ziad is asking a question. He says, what about the future of your business? What about the future of your business when the government is putting a lot of restriction on the import? How can you carry on?
Sorry?
He's asking, most of your business is in imported goods. And now the government is putting a lot of obstacle on the imported goods. How can you carry on your business?
I did not hear. I did not hear.
Okay, Karine, read the question. Maybe he hear your connection.
Okay, he was asking that with the majority of your products imported, and now we have higher precautions and obstacles, how will you keep in your business with these obstacles?
There are no additional obstacles now in importing. Who said so? There are no additional obstacles. The only obstacle that we have is the rising dollar every day. This is our only obstacle.
It's enough, but
as I said that we will keep on importing, and the imported goods will their prices will keep on increasing. That's it. We may reach a state of hunger, and I'm not a pessimistic person by nature, but this is.
How long can we depend on local products? How are they? How do they have the good quality, so we can depend on them in case there are?
This is an important question. Actually, first, it's not how long can we depend on them. The goods that are really, they are being produced under good standards, and I wish that we would really have an authentic have that, not because our country is good or because we are in a corrupt country. No, Lebanon is very small, and there are no capabilities for to have enough raw materials for the industrial sector. As I said, and as I named it, and I say it again, I named it as the packaging sector. We have a packaging sector, we do not industrial sector. We are, like, for example, for a shampoo that is made in Lebanon, the plastic is from China, the raw materials from Europe, the nylon, the packaging, I don't know from where, maybe from Egypt, the machines from Germany, and the labor from Bangladesh. But at the end, we say that the shampoo, the bottle of shampoo is Lebanese. No, it's not Lebanese. And that's why people were nagging at the beginning of the financial crisis. They were nagging that, why should I buy Lebanese products? Their prices are higher than the imported ones, because every ingredient in this product is imported. If I put them all together, their price will be higher than the imported one.
Is that how you explain also the rise in prices in local products such as the cheese and these stuff? It's because of the packaging?
The cheese?
We saw in the past week that Lebanese and cheese, the Lebanese brands are even...
also the cheese is imported. Not because of the packaging.
But the Lebanese brands, we also are witnessing a rise in prices in the local products.
You mean in the cheese and the dairy products?
Yes.
Do you want me to tell you that the cheese as well is imported? This is our problem. Look, if you see the prices of the vegetables, why we haven't witnessed a much rise in the prices of the vegetables? Because we have here in Lebanon, and many vegetables also were coming from Syria. But the cheese, the cows are not from Lebanon. Even the milk, if they are buying powder milk to produce cheese, the powder milk is not from Lebanon.
Can I ask you a question?
This is our main issue.
Mr. Khawly.
Yes.
If the dollar rate is going to go up to 8,000 or 9,000, are you going to increase your prices on a weekly basis?
This is normal. This is normal. As I said, I mean, the questions are a little bit repeating themselves. As I said previously, that the supermarkets and the companies, they are running out of stocks. So our order being made on daily basis, and every day the companies, they are pricing us in dollars, and we have to pay them in dollars. When I want to go and get these cash dollars to pay them, I will pay them at the rate of the daily rate. So of course prices have to increase, but we are not allowed to increase the prices of the goods existing in our shops.
Maybe there are a couple more questions.
The existing one in our stocks, yes.
Maybe there are a couple more questions for Mr. Khawly, but we need to continue with our program. So thank you so much, Mr. Nehme Khawly, for your nice presentation. I want to repeat as a summary your advice for small and medium-sized businesses, which was, in your case, since you are a retailer, you are deciding to have cheaper brands as suppliers, you are deciding to go online and enabling your e-commerce platform to be ready. And thirdly, you are taking this as an opportunity to expand either one of your branches or looking at new areas in which to operate. So this is something that all entrepreneurs and small and medium-sized businesses that are watching, that are attending, can take as a take-home lesson. So thank you so much. Before we transition,
thank you so much. Thank you for hearing me. I hope that you enjoyed the information I have given you, and yes. Hopefully, and I hope also that I have answered the questions. There are still many questions that I did not answer.
Thank you, Mr. Khawly.
No, I think just one or two, so that's fine.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abdullah and Ms. Karine Bshara.
I want to acknowledge the countries of origin of the participants that are attending our live streaming. There is a person from Buenos Aires, Argentina, my home country, and I want to greet Cindy Bynes, who is watching from Argentina. There is a person from, of course, several from Lebanon. There is a person from Canada, another one watching from Texas, another one from Cyprus, another one from Juba, more from Lebanon, and another person from Michigan. There is a person who attended MEU when he was at college in 1978. Welcome, Nazar, and more people from Lebanon. Be welcome, every one of you. There are many countries who are watching our live webinar, and that encourages us. The first presentation was from the retail industry in representation of all product small businesses, and now we are going to move to a service business, small or medium-sized business, and we have the privilege to have Amin Khalad, who will talk to us about the effects of the pandemic on his consultancy company. He is based in Jeddah. Welcome, Amin.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for Nehme. يعطيك العافية. So I liked what Nehme talked about, and what I like most is that Nehme talked about a totally different perspective from where I come from. And this is normal because of the nature of the business that Nehme is working with, and the nature of our business. So you already did the introduction. I'll just introduce myself.
Sorry, Amin, can I say something? Actually, at the beginning,
yes.
I didn't accept, and Professor Biaggi, he knows, I didn't want to talk about the positive impact on our business, as if I'm wishing that Corona will always stay. But
exactly.
But he told me that I will be happy to show another perspective.
Of course, and by the way, I was going to mention here, and I'm going to talk about the businesses that really profited from this pandemic, which is something beautiful. And for us as a service industry, whenever we are looking for
it has been offset by the financial crisis. We did not make anything. It was offset by the financial crisis. We have stayed normal.
Exactly.
So go ahead.
This is in Lebanon. Okay, thank you. So my name is Amin Khalad. Like they told you, I'm the director at Leap to Success. We are a consultancy and learning and development company. Our main office is in Dubai. I am talking to you here from Saudi, from Jeddah, and I live in Lebanon. So, but now I'm stuck. I've been stuck here for like 5 months, and I might be staying here for some time. I was asked to talk about 3 questions today. So they sent me 3 questions. The first question was, what was the impact of the pandemic on your business? The second question was, what do you plan to do? Or in our case, we're going to tell you what we did, because we try to be as proactive as possible, especially that we are in the service industry, and we don't need as much resources as the retail industry or other industries, and we are more flexible and we can change a lot. And the third question was an advice to everyone who is watching us. What I'm going to tell you is I prepared a small presentation, and I'm going to make sure to focus mostly on the advices and on how you, as the viewers, if you were small, medium business enterprise owners, entrepreneurs, managers, even as individuals or students, how you can benefit from, not from a crisis or from a pandemic, but a change in your mindset in order to be always competing in any situation. So I'll open my presentation now and start. So, starting with the impact of the pandemic. I'm not going to talk only about the impact of the pandemic on our business as training and consultancy and learning and development. I'm going to start with all organizations and individuals in general in all over the world. Of course, in Lebanon, we have a bit of a different situation, because above the pandemic, we have the financial crisis and the dollar crisis, and sarcastically, we're talking about it before we start our webinar, that the pandemic was like something that took our minds from the real problem that is happening right there. So I'm going to talk about the pandemic now and how it impacted organizations and individuals, and it's kind of the same. So I've put them in parallel. You're going to see it. So first of all, revenues of all companies had big decreases in revenues. We have some sectors like supermarkets, like my friend Amin here was talking about, like supermarkets, like manufacturers, for example, of detergents, like pharmaceuticals here in Saudi, for example, we have the biggest franchise of pharmaceuticals. They reached their target, their yearly target by the end of March. So we have few sectors and few companies that really benefited from this, but overall, most companies had a big decrease in revenues. Moreover, they have a big compromise in their operations, because whenever you are operating and you have a pandemic and everything is closed around you and you have to stay home and you have to close your business, so there was a big compromise to the operations of these companies. So they have a drop in revenue. At the same time, they were unable to operate, so they needed to change their strategic direction. And when we say strategic direction, we're not talking here about the strategic direction that we usually learn in universities, the normal strategic direction to put goals and follow these goals. No, they started directly doing the conventional thing that we do whenever we have a problem or a crisis. They started cutting costs. Unfortunately, it always starts with the human capital. A lot of companies laid off employees. In some countries, wherever there are no rules, like Lebanon, for example, salaries were cut into half. Moreover, companies started stopping their investment. And this is here where our first problem started as a consultancy and learning and development company. Because for those of you who have companies or work in companies, or even for students, for you to know, in any company, whenever there is a crisis or whenever there is any decrease in any revenue and we want to do cost cutting, we start with the training, because for companies this is considered usually a cost. For us, we consider it as an investment, but in companies they start by stopping the training, stopping anything related to consultancy or projects outside. So this was very negative to us as a company. I'm going to talk about it more later. In general, in all companies, we had the panic, and all companies became on survival mode. Let's see the individual right now. So the individuals, at the same time, like the companies, their incomes decreased. But there was no more room for mobility for different reasons, because borders were closed. There was rules and regulations where you cannot go and go outside. Plus, people were afraid. They were afraid for their health and even from dying, for example, that we have a lot of fear of death in this situation. The mindset of people changed. Now, today, I cannot really tell you what changed in the mindset of people, because it's not something like math or finance. It's not 1 + 1 = 2. The mindset change in people, it depends on every person, how this person deals with the crisis. It depends on the personalities of the people, of the experiences of the people, but we had a big shift in the mindset of people around us. Individually, of course, people also decreased their expenditures, like my friend Nehme was talking here when he was talking about the secondary goods or the inferior goods. They even changed their behavior while purchasing, okay? And this also worked not only on supermarkets or on pharmacies, on everything related to even their phones. I'm sure nobody in the past 4 months changed their phones unless this was broken, for example. So on the individual side, we had panic and we had quarantine. This was, in general, the impact of the pandemic on the organization and on the individual. Now I'm going to move to our company. In our company, in addition to these factors that I already talked about, we have the consultancy part. Whenever we talk consultancy, it means we have projects that we deal with companies and we help them in doing their training needs analysis and changing their performance management systems, for example, or in creating a customer experience and many other different projects. In training, we have the courses that we give. One course, you go and you attend the course. There are programs for managers, for financial background managers. We have programs that are yearly, and we have academies that they could. It's like instead of going to a university, you go to an academy for like 1 or 2 years, and you get your certificates and you become a professional. So when the pandemic came I assure you this was all either postponed or cancelled. And our company ended up in the same situation as all organizations and individuals, and we panicked. But the difference here is that we always preach about innovation and thinking positively. So we had to lead by example and start doing something new. And this is why I'm gonna tell you proudly what we did in the past 4 months. Even though the pandemic was there, we did not have a financial situation here in KSA or in Dubai, but at the same time, we had an economic problem because everything was closed. The oil prices were so low. And you know that here, around here in Khalij, the oil is something very important for them. So we also had a big economic problem here and we were panicking. Now I'm gonna tell you about a concept I like. And this is the concept that usually, it's usually the wall between us and change, between us and improvement, between us and the obstacle that we have. And this situation today, we are talking about pandemic. I'm going to talk about the habitual conditioning. What is the habitual conditioning? When I say habitual conditioning, I mean that as individuals, as organizations, as communities, every human being around the world, we are creatures of habit. You always hear that we are creatures of habit. So we are used to a certain consumer behavior. We are used to a certain way of taking decisions. For example, in big corporates, wherever you have governance, if you want to take a decision, you need to take the decision, plan for it, then you need like 2-3 signatures in order for this decision to be accepted, and then you're going to start implementing. This is one example of the habits that we have. So as you see in front of you, I've written a lot of points that when we have habitual conditioning. This is the habitual conditioning. When the crisis came, and whenever usually crises come, everything falls down and nothing is normal, and you cannot even function the way you used to. You cannot reach your customers or your clients the way you used to. You cannot operate the way you used to. So we needed to do a change. Instead of looking inside, because if you look at 10 to 15 years ago, whenever you were asked to improve yourself, the first advice was always look inside, look at your strength, look at your weaknesses. And they used to mention in the SWOT analysis that you usually take in the university that there are opportunities and there are threats, but always the focus is on your strengths. I'm not saying that this is not very important. This is very important. But whenever we say pandemic, and trust me, the world after COVID will never be the same as the world before COVID. In Lebanon, we have financial situation. Outside Lebanon, we also have big problems, maybe not with the same magnitude, but we're going to have a lot of problems, and the world is changing. And now I'm going to tell you how we need to deal with the changing world. So coming back to us as Lead to Success, we went and we looked back at our opportunities. We looked at the effects of the pandemic that I already talked about, the revenues, the operations, the strategic, and we tried to see where we can find opportunities in these. So let's look at revenues and income. When companies have problems in revenues and problems in incomes, usually, like we said, they start cutting costs and everything, but they want hope. Like any human being, we need hope to survive. So us as service provider, if we can support them, if we can provide them with ideas that can generate sales, that can help them improve their businesses and maybe go back to a better situation than it was after the pandemic, they would maybe deal with us. This is one of the opportunities that we had. Looking at the mobility and the problem in operations, people started really realizing the importance of technology. And this was for us an opportunity to look at. Like Nehme, for example, you were just talking about that we need to do an online platform. We need to participate in other online platforms in order to, and he just said that if we did it earlier, I'm sure the numbers would have been a bit higher. Maybe we would have benefited more. So people started to be more aware about the importance of technology. For us, this was an opportunity. Strategic direction. People today, and this is one of the most important things I need you to take with you today. We need new skills for the future. the skills that we used to talk about are still important, but we have different set of skills that are important for the future of our talent, of our businesses, and for ourselves. I'm going to talk about this later. When we go back to cutting costs and expenditures, we need to make sure that we provide an affordable investment. So today, whenever you see investment in my presentation, this means prices, but coming from the learning and development perspective, we do not say prices, we say investment, because we believe that any penny you pay for education and for upskilling yourself is an investment. So we needed to look at affordable and provide affordable expenses, investments for people. Looking at the purchasing behavior, today people are trying to only get the things that are considered necessity, as we say in marketing, the needs. But at the same time, whenever people want something and whenever you want to sell something, this doesn't mean that people are not buying, but you need to create value. And how do you create value? By providing quality with this. So this for us also was an opportunity that we can look for. And whenever it came to survival and quarantine, of course, we had the privilege of time. Owners, managers, even individual people, they had a lot of time. So we had the privilege of going and talking with people, and people were listening more to us and were giving us more time because they were not doing nothing, staying in their places. So looking at those opportunities, we decided to start changing immediately. I remind you that it was easier for us than other companies because we are a service industry. We work in learning and development, and we're flexible. We can change easily. We are resilient, as they say. So what we did internally, we started first of all by shifting the operations team role. What do I mean by this? We have an operations team. So usually whenever we have trainings, I'll give you an example. Whenever we have trainings, we have in a certain month, like 150 days of training. So we have an operations team that takes care of the flights of the trainers, of the hotels, of the material, of everything related to logistics. This team in the pandemic, since we were operating virtually, there was no more need for this team. So we needed to use this the competencies, if you want, or if we consider the team as a resource, we wanted to use them in order to improve the business, and at the same time not to create a demotivating environment and start laying off people. So we shifted the roles, and these people starting helping us in spreading awareness, in getting us leads, in talking to our customers. We did a fast, rapid training for them, and they started to change their roles. Second, we upskilled our team. What do I mean by upskilled our team? For example, I'm giving today a small presentation virtually. If you go back like 4 months ago, I did not even know how to use Zoom. This is upskilling myself when it comes to virtual trainings, when it comes to virtual meetings, when it comes to any activities related to trainings or to consultancy that we do usually face-to-face. We started to train and to transform this material. So also we invested in technology. We made sure that any trainer, any person in our company that wants to deal with a client or a customer or a partner, they have 5G, they have the best laptop available. And moreover, when I say technology, we also invested in our image on the social media. And this is something that is right now in the pipeline. We're still not there, but we also found out that we had an area of improvement when it comes to social media, when it comes to our website, when it comes overall to our online presence. So we invested there, and we partnered with the company, and now we are improving this part because this is really the future. We also remained reachable. What do I mean by remained reachable? I always say and convince myself that I am stuck here in KSA, but actually when the pandemic started, I had the ability to come back to my home country, which is Lebanon. But we had a big meeting at the company, and we decided that the heads of this company should stay in this country because we need to make sure, by the way, this is most of our business is here in Saudi. This is why we're mostly here, not in Dubai or in Lebanon. So we made sure to stay here in order for us to reach customers whenever there's one day that there is no lockdown. So this has remained reachable. we had to sacrifice maybe seeing our families at some point or something else to stay here in the country. Externally, what we did, we stayed connected. We made sure to do like 15, 20 to 30 calls per day to all our customers. Make sure to visit our customers whenever we had the chance to do this, to make sure to go online with our customers and stay connected with the people for us to remember us. And because after the crisis, usually the people who stick with you are the people that you're gonna work with later on. Moreover, we did some free webinars, but we did it for multiple purposes. First of all, we needed to give back a bit to the community. We needed to show new skills and let people know that there are new skills and new trainings out there. So it was like a small marketing stint for our services and products. And most importantly, we did these in order for our trainers to train on virtual trainings and to know how to give trainings and deal with the activities virtually. We also innovated our products and services. I'm going to talk about that later. I'm going to show you some products that we worked on. And last but not least, we made sure that we are flexible whenever it came to timings. We had some sessions that we gave like 12 in the evening and 10 in the evening because you have different time zones between few countries, and flexible on investments. We now have new products and services that are with the same quality, but a smaller period of time and reaching the same objectives. After everything, this is an example of some of the things that we came up with. We had some online courses related to innovation. These were, we used to always to do innovation trainings, but we created new virtual trainings with new activities and that tackle new competencies like innovation and digital work, remote management. It was a necessity today to train people on how to manage teams remotely because everyone is working from home. Even after the pandemic, this is going to continue. Also, one of the most important skills today, and I'm going to talk about it at the end of these 20 minutes, is resilience. We did a training, a 3-day training about building individual and organizational resilience. We made small part of these trainings and we gave them like as free webinars, as I told you. And now I'm going to give you a small part at the end. I'm going to go through it rapidly. I'm going to tell you a story. We sat and we were talking with the team about what we can do in order to benefit at least from the situation, or at least make sure that we are doing the right thing in order to incur business and incur sales and continue. So we started to see that everyone is going virtually, but whenever we're going virtually, we had many problems related to which platform to use, how to connect with the people later on, and many different things. So we decided to do something related to virtual learning. And when we were sitting, we didn't want to put an investment, as any company that doesn't want to put an investment in this situation. So we crafted this, and we had someone in the team who knows a bit about design. So I just wanted to show you how we crafted this on our hands while sitting, that we wanted like this, we needed to be like this as a logo for the virtual learning. And today we have this new service or product, if you want to call it. It's a virtual learning labs. And by virtual learning labs, what do I mean? I mean that instead of going, and if you wanna improve, for example, your leadership competency, instead of going for a 3 days training, you can go and watch like a lab of 3 days, 1 hour per day, for example, and you will be a member on this platform, because at the same time, this V-learning, we call the V-Labs, is a platform where you can go, you can subscribe there, you can anytime, you can go inside, you can watch videos related to the training that you take, you can read articles, and you can also upload articles or videos if you have anything to relate. We created a small community inside. So we created this in order to engage people and make sure that we have a flexible product or service that is also affordable for everyone. And to say the truth, this is most of our work today is here on the V-Lab. So these are examples of what we try to do. Hala, I'm gonna move to 2 points I wanna end with. First point is adjusting. And what do I mean by adjusting? Whenever you will, as a business or as a person, as an individual, face a crisis or a pandemic or any future crisis, because as you all know, the pandemic was a big crisis because it's something that happened the first time. Even in crisis management, we never thought about how to deal with pandemics because nobody really expected this. But in order to deal with future crises better, and in order to learn from this crisis, we need to know two very important things. Whenever a crisis hits, we need to be fast. We need to adjust rapidly. I'm going to talk about how to adjust now. Rethink your purpose and meaning. As a business, you need to rethink your purpose. Ask yourself these three questions. What do we want as a business? What do we really want? Especially the businesses that were affected a lot by the pandemic. What do we want? How can we be different? What do we want to keep or what do we want to change? In some situations, you might need to change all your business or to close down and maybe get a new set of skills, unfortunately. But this is the first thing that we need to do whenever the crisis hits us. Second thing to do is understand the human behavior around us. Okay, the consumer behavior and the workforce at the same time. We need to understand that the new workforce and the new consumers that are coming are the Generation Z. We are stopping now. We won't be talking more about the millennials because we've been talking about millennials for the past 10 years and what are the characteristics of millennials and what are the preferences of these millennials. But today we want to start talk about Generation Z. Generation Z. This generation is the generation that needs to go online. That they want things fast. They want everything reachable in an easy way, and at the same time, they like to embrace nature and they like social responsibility and everything. So we need to understand this behavior for the people that work for us or with us and for our consumers. Third of all, we need to upskill our talent or upskill ourselves. We need to look at the skills of the future. And I tell you now, the skills of the future are innovation, technology, decision-making, and creative problem-solving. Leadership is still important, of course. Communication is a very important skill and it will always remain here. But for the future, we need to be tech savvies in order to cope with this generation that is coming. Because if we don't do this, like you see in most of the businesses around us, especially here in the Middle East, people who do not really know about technology are losing their jobs today and they are being replaced, okay? In some instances, we talk about being replaced by machines. This will not happen. There will be some reshape in the way things go. Some job roles might not exist anymore, but there will always be jobs for us. But we need to always upskill ourselves, look at what are the skills of the future, what is our current skill, and let's put an action plan and be very rapid in implementation. Your words are the law means that lead by example and raise accountability. Today, I tell all owners, all entrepreneurs, and all managers and all companies, people need to be accountable. We cannot go back to the days before. It's harder today. It's more competitive, of course. The market is more competitive, and especially internally in companies, it's becoming more competitive. So we need to raise accountability, and everyone should be accountable for their actions. Create habits that support change. What do I mean by this? Break the habitual conditioning that we talked about. For example, if you are in a corporation and you used to have like 3-4 layers in order to take a decision, today you cannot afford the time that it takes for you to change this decision. You need to make fast decision, rapid decision, and change and start implementing. This is an example. We need to support change management. How do we support change management? By understanding and by communication. Communication is number one in supporting change. Communicate the change that you need to do with your teams, with your people around you, with your communities before doing the change, in order for people to get involved and for you to get the buy-in. And most importantly, I tell you, embrace ambiguity. The world is becoming very ambiguous. It's becoming very uncertain around us, and this is not going to change. So I tell you, embrace it. You need to know how to function in an ambiguous world. And this is, if you tell me what's one thing that I need to change, I will tell you, act fast. Whatever happens around you, don't worry about knowing the end before starting. And this is something that might contradict a lot of things that we've been hearing for the past 15 to 20 years. But I tell you today, don't wait to know what's at the end of the tunnel before starting. If you have a new idea, if you have a new initiative in your head, just go and start doing it. So this is the adjusting part. I'll move to the transforming part. It will only take me a few minutes and I finish. So transforming part. First of all, evaluate business ideas and framework. What do I mean by this? Whenever any employee has a new idea or any partner in the business has a new idea, I'm giving examples here. Evaluate these ideas, and if you see that there is one or two benefits for the ideas, don't put the cons and pros in front of you. Just, like I said, start implementing and do all your projects start to start. Start your first idea. If you have another idea, start it also. We need to be rapid today. We cannot still think of the ways we used to learn before, okay? Adopt agile thinking. What do I mean by agile thinking? I mean by startup thinking. No matter how big your corporation is, your business is, or how small, you need to think like a startup. Go back to how do startup think? They sit, they talk. If they have an idea, if they have something in mind, they start implementing it. If any employee gives any idea, they tell him thank you, and they start doing that. So after adopting agile thinking, I'll move to measure what matters. What do I mean by measure what matters? We've been talking a lot about the need to measure everything. For example, the graph that we saw in the first presentation, which are very important. Of course, this is one of the things that we need to measure because it matters. This is the finances. But usually in companies today, we are measuring everything. We have the habit of measuring everything around us. In these situations, we do not have to measure everything. We need to measure only the things that have direct impact, especially whenever we are in crisis. For example, if I have a new idea and I have a new idea as a sales pitch, I need to put, first of all, a goal that is not very far. We need to change the way we see goals. We used to look at goals from a yearly perspective. Today, we need to look at KPIs. I need to put a goal. By the end of this week, I need to generate, for example, 5 leads and get one of these leads to get one deal. And I need to measure it on a weekly basis. This is what I mean by measuring what matters. Cultivate 360 relationships. I'm not going to go through it a lot, but I'll tell you that you need to make sure to always keep a good relation with everyone around you, your peers, your suppliers, your managers, your employees, everyone, because at the end of the day, when problems strike, I'll tell you an example. As a service provider, we have a lot of companies that are still working with us because they have a good relationship and they are very clear with us, and they even tell us how much they can pay before we send them the deal. This is based on a good relationship. It's not based on the concept of business. This is an example. And last but not least, redefine your business. Optimize existing markets, conquer niche markets, understand vital costs. I'm going to talk about this part. Innovate and diversify your products and services. Whenever we're talking innovation, this is the future. But I'm going to say it, I think I said it like 5-6 times, I'm going to say it again. Whenever we're talking innovation, innovation comes from the people that work with us. It's not us. I know most of us have our employees, managers, small business owners, but I can say this also to big corporations and medium-sized corporations. Listen to your people. They are the consumers. They know what things need to change. Create an environment where people like to give their opinions, where opinions are taken positively. Never tell anyone this is not a good idea. If you want to tell someone about an idea that it's negative, explain why this idea is negative or does not work. Create this good environment. And last but not least, embrace digital transformation. The future is all related around technology, and this is a fact, and we cannot run from it anymore. embrace digital transformation in your employee experience, and most importantly, like also Nehme was talking before, in your customer experiences, either by going online or having an application for your company. Embrace this digital transformation, and that's everything I have for today. I didn't want to talk much longer, so I hope you like what I said, and if you have any question, let's go.
Thank you, Mr. Amin. A very rich presentation, very informative.
Thank you.
I have a question of 2 parts, if I may, please.
Yes, so let's start.
Okay, the first part, you said new skills. So
yes.
Please help us to define what you mean by new skills. And
okay.
the second part of the question, if I may, somebody is asking what should be made in order to solve the crisis of this sudden huge gap. So we are going through a gap.
Excuse me, can you repeat the second question? So the first question was what I mean by new skills. If I can elaborate more. What about the second question?
The second question, what should be done, okay, at the crisis time to solve the gap today that is going on? So what can we do?
When you say gap, what do you mean? Is it this is your question, or is someone?
No, it's a viewer. It's not. No, it is a viewer. It's not my question.
Okay, I just needed to know what they mean by gap. Which gap? But I'm gonna talk today. Maybe it was in the new skills, because I put the gap when I talked about skills.
He's talking about a huge gap.
I'm gonna talk about. Yes, I'm gonna talk about skills. I'm gonna give an example. It will be much easier for people to understand what I mean by new skills. There are a lot of new skills and competencies around us today, okay? For example, I'm gonna talk about the simpler thing. As an instructor in a university, okay? One of the most important skills today to have, okay, is to know how to talk virtually, to know how to use Zoom, to know how to use WebEx, to know how to use different types of platforms. This is a skill that you need to evolve. Innovation today, or resilience, for example, is a skill. It's not just something you talk about. So in order to improve these skills, I'm not saying that these skills are only improved by training. It's training, it's experience, it's maybe you can go and read about them, maybe you can watch some documentaries or watch some things online. But to improve your skill, you need to look at where you are today, what you are working on today, and what are the skills that you really need to improve. For example, I'm going to tell you about a skill that I am improving today. This will be very helpful to understand. I am taking an online training with a university about artificial intelligence, because I think and I know that in like few years, the training will be affected by this AI thing. So I need to start preparing myself from now, because I never knew what AI was about. So this is what I meant by upskill yourself. I hope my answer is clear.
Thank you. It's clear. Carry on.
Okay. So, and I also covered the gap part.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
No problem. I think Karine has a question.
Yes, Karine.
First of all, thank you for this presentation. It was very rich and informative.
Thank you.
I want to ask about risk management. As we know, the history of risk management is not that old. We discovered it in the 1990s. So
yes.
Was this department prepared for such a pandemic, for such a shock, maybe in the business field?
Okay, so you're talking. I'm going to answer you in 2 parts, Barry. You're saying the risk management concept and when it started, and you are saying this department, because in some companies you don't have the risk department, and other companies you have risk management department. But I'm going to answer your main question, which was, were we prepared? Of course we were not, because whenever you are talking risk management, usually risk management is based on experience and what usually happens. And sometimes Okay, you go and you do, I forgot what we call it, but it's like a prova. You go and it's like you shut down the lights and you are in the situation and you try to get out of it. Okay, so this is how we usually train ourselves on risk. And I don't know if you know this, but like management, risk management, it came from the army. So there's an article I love that is called What Armies Do in Times of Crisis. And if you go and read this article, if you want to research it and read it, they will tell you exactly about risk management. It's better than taking a full course of risk management. But we were not prepared because the pandemic, okay, it was something new to humanity. In risk management, they don't tell you what to do if you cannot leave your place to go to work. This is one example that you can never really see in risk management. In risk management, that will never tell you how to communicate with a person that is afraid of coming 2 meters to talk to you. Okay. In risk management, they cannot tell you what to do when all the borders are closed. So this is something new. And what I was talking about today, and this is related to upskilling one of our competencies, which is the resilience. It's in 10 years, if we have a new crisis that has never happened before, what would you do? This is the question that we should ask ourselves today in order to prepare ourselves. I tell you what I would do. I would do the same things that I tried to do, but I will be much faster. You see how much I'm focusing on this point today, because the world is becoming very fast. And if you are not fast, competition will eat you, as we say. Okay, I hope I answered you.
Okay, there is a question from an attendee saying that you mentioned that innovation is a major key for the continuity for the for the SMEs. What is your competitive advantage tool in your consultancy business?
As an innovation?
Yes.
Okay, exactly. Talking about innovation, I just need to explain that innovation is a skill. It's not a tool. It's a skill. It's a way of acting. It's a way of thinking. And you also have tools for innovation that you can learn about. If we're going to talk about our consultancy and learning and development company, one of our innovative solution is the one I showed you, but I didn't talk about it a lot because I'm not here to market. I'm here for Middle East more than to market our company. So this we have the virtual learning labs, where if you want to work with us on this, we have flexible timings. We can give you training at any time you like. If you are a company and you have employees, or if you are an individual, at the same time, after you finish this training, we stay connected with you. We have eight different tools in this platform that we have. One of them is coaching. You can schedule whenever you want a session with your coach, and the coach is usually the same trainer who gave you the training that you are taking. You can go and schedule a webinar maybe, or do a group. And if you want a facilitator, you can also from our company schedule a facilitator to help you in this platform. So this is one of the things that we innovated, and we created it from scratch whenever we had the pandemic. So 4 months ago, we didn't even have this virtual platform.
So you say your competitive advantage in your business is that you have a flexibility in time and methods.
Okay. This is another question, because you asked me about something innovative. For me, I wish people knew Arabic. I would have given them an example. Nobody will say something bad about themselves. So I'm gonna tell you, for me, what is really our competitive advantage. For me, our competitive advantage is our expertise, and the fact that we make sure that any trainer or any consultant for any project related to any subject is someone who worked within this subject, because we don't like to talk theory. We want to give our experience. For example, any subjects related to human resources in our company, for managers or for employees, I am the main trainer, even though my job is not really to train a lot, because we have a lot of trainers, but whenever there is something related to performance management, I do it myself because I'm experienced in this. Whenever we have something related to finance, we have a dean from a university, a well-known university, that comes and gives this training related to finance, because we need someone that is an expert. So this is for me our competitive advantage, our expertise. The rest can be really, like you say, today we can be imitated, but if one thing people cannot take from you, it's your knowledge, your skills, and the attitude you do things with.
I hope we see this business in Lebanon.
Yeah, we operate in Lebanon. I'm a partner in the company in Lebanon, but unfortunately, with the situation in Lebanon, we're not operating. We still have a small office there, but unfortunately, you know, no need to continue. Any more questions? What questions do you have?
I have one question, Amin, if I may, please.
Yes, Fadal. Yes, Rafa.
You were talking about innovation.
Yes.
And your presentation was basically about offering service, because you are a consultant. Yep. And you have...
Yes, we are a consultancy and learning and development provider. So
yeah, okay. So basically, you have only covered one perspective, which is what we call service marketing.
Yes.
So how can you use innovation at the present time to gain competitive advantage in other domains?
In other domains, let's take an example. I'm gonna in any domain. Let's take an example. Nehme, for example. Nehme, if you want, we can hear you. You can remove. I'd love for you to be with us if you want to remove your your mute. So
of course.
Let's take Nehme, for example. Nehme is an owner of. Let's talk about the supermarkets part of this business. How can they innovate? Mr. Rafat, there are two things whenever we say innovation. There is the willingness to really innovate and to really think of the future and really what am I willing to put at this investment to innovate. And at the same time, okay, there is the mentality that you have. If we talk about, this is why I said innovation is a skill, it's a competency, it's not something tangible. Okay, so how we can innovate? Maybe if I sit and talk with Nehme for like half an hour tomorrow and tell him my idea of innovation, he might
I have to because you are a consultant.
Yes, exactly. And I'll put my email for you and I'll give you. Yes, you're most welcome. يعني يا ريت برجع لبنان كمان نشوفك.
Especially now after watching your very informative presentation.
Thank you. So I was saying to Mr. Rafat, I know whenever you have a business, Mr. Rafat, it's not about the business, it's about your mentality and your mindset when it comes to innovation. Okay, I did when I was a student in Middle East University. When I was doing my MBA, we took a class of innovation, and this is the first time I was hearing about innovation. And we needed to innovate, and my project was about Middle East University, what we can do for Middle East University in order to innovate and maybe get more students and increase or build more our community. And if you want, I can send you the presentation, but it's very basic. I was still a student, so it's a bit basic. Okay, so you have any other questions?
Let me follow up with what you have said, Mr. Amin.
I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example before we finish. For example, if you're a pizza provider, how are they innovating today? They are saying, since you are afraid, they look at you. You start from the situation of the person and the need. People are afraid today, right? They are afraid of Corona, and all the media is saying that Corona dies at a certain degree, right? So they are sending you the pizza to be cooked at home. They didn't use before. They either send you a fresh pizza done, or you went to the supermarket and got a pizza that is frozen. Today, Domino's in KSA, they send you a pizza that you can cook at home because they know what you are afraid of. This is an example of innovating in a pandemic. So yeah, what is the next question?
Okay, you are correct when it comes to innovation, but innovation will be, as Karina said, it will be a competitive advantage if it will be very difficult to copy and imitate. And today,
okay, thank you for saying that. What I am saying today, that innovation will not be a competitive advantage if it's easy to, if it's not easy to imitate. It will be a competitive advantage if you do it fast and start implementing it before they see you, because with the technology and with the awareness today, nothing cannot be imitated. So this is why I was focusing on being rapid, because once you innovate and start reaping the benefits, trust me, your competitors are going to do the same. So what will you need in 1 year? You will need to re-innovate. So this is why innovation is very important.
Okay, and this by the way, this is what we call in management first mover strategy. You know?
Yes.
If you are able to innovate and it is hard for people to copy, then you are gonna last. But today nothing can be hidden.
Yes.
Because of the internet. I can
yes,
copy.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's
today information is not power anymore.
Very good. But in reality today, when you talk about innovation, there are two kinds of innovation, if I just can tell you. There is what, you know, the quantum, okay, or the radical or the incremental, okay? So in reality, introduce a new service like your consultancy for the first time, it is basically considered to be radical, but then you have to upgrade it, which is basically incremental.
Exactly.
In the market today, you know, you have to be innovative constantly to beat the competition. Otherwise, you're going to lose the market.
Exactly. And
not only to
going back to the...
Right? Because if Mr. Nehme is not competitive, he's not innovative, people are going to look for a new product or a new service.
Yes, of course. And even if he innovates in like a few months, a year, it depends on the innovation. The people, he will be imitated and he will need to re-innovate. This is why we say today it's the skill of the future. Okay.
Thank you, Amin. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amin, I want to ask you a question. Now you are in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. Now I am in Jeddah.
Okay.
Yes, but I live in Lebanon, so I'm in Jeddah.
I think I should meet with you because I have some business idea that I would like to share with you.
Of course. Hala, when we finish, I will send you my mobile number, my Lebanese mobile number. Just connect on WhatsApp.
It's something new that is not related to the
supermarket. I have a resilient mindset, so we want to change. And
thank you.
Grow. So I'll send you the.
Hoping to see you soon.
Do you have any? Yes, of course. I hope so. So, Mr. Rafat, Dr. Biaggi, do we have more questions?
Well, I gave you more than enough.
No, just. By the way, this is how I'm used to function. I told you before, I like interaction. I'm a trainer in nature. This is my base, not a speaker.
Thank you, Amin, for your open heart and open mind and for your presentation. Mr. Nehme, thank you also for your very informative information about the current situation in Lebanon.
Thank you for listening to me and for having me.
It was a great listening to both of you.
Mr. Rafat, you are a professor?
Yes, I'm at the Middle East University.
Sorry, I was calling you Mr. Rafat, not Dr. Rafat. Because, because Professor Biaggi, he has put your name without a doctor. I don't know that.
No, don't worry.
I apologize.
You can call me Amin. Okay.
Amin, he used to study at the university. Actually, I don't know much people at the university.
Yeah.
You are welcome to come anytime and visit the university. Amin is actually an alumni of the university.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great.
No, I know the university very well. I know the university very well. But Middle East University should be very proud recruiting people like Amin.
Thank you.
He has established, and we have seen that in his presentation. And nice to meet you, Amin, and hopefully we will meet you in person.
Of course. I will make sure of that.
I'm happy to hear that even the webinar is creating new business partnerships.
Yeah, maybe I think we should start from France.
All right. Thank you so much. Again, I want to unite my voice to Refat. Thank you so much, Amin. And thank you so much, Nehme, for sharing your experience. And I want to read two of the words of gratitude from our attendees for you. One person said, very important discussion. Enterprises must be leaders, not followers in innovation strategies. Another attendee said, thank you very much for this wonderful webinar. People are reacting positively. So we thank you, both you, Amin and Nehme, for being our panelists tonight.
Of course, I'm ready whenever you need.
Any final word from you?
No, I just want to thank you for having me here. And I hope I can still be here whenever you need for any other subjects.
I mean, when you come back, you can visit Middle East University as well.
Of course. I still need to take my degree. I left it a long time ago.
Actually, this webinar and this series of webinars is our own small way from Middle East University to innovate and to change and to adapt to the situation.
Yes, and I'm going to tell you something. I'll add one thing, but I didn't want to mention it here. But this is something I'm doing it on a personal level, but I would like to say it. I'm trying to create a solution. I'm calling it a solution because I don't want to talk about it, that can fit in a university environment in order to help the student to strengthen their skills before they go to the real world. After they take the academic part and all the information, and we always talk, me and you, Doctor, about the gap here. So I'm trying to innovate something. I hope when it's finished, I'm gonna go to Middle East and start there, of course.
Amin, thanks for your number. You just sent it. I will send you my number.
Yes, just connect WhatsApp, and we'll keep in touch. Whenever I go to Lebanon, we can talk.
This is my number as well. I've sent it now.
Okay, great.
Thank you, everyone, again.
Middle East University is your home. Anytime you are welcome to come and visit. And thank you very much.
Of course, I will. Thank you.
I mean, thank you very much. We actually, the three of us should thank Dr. for making this presentation, by the way.
Sure, my pleasure. I want to finish by thanking all the attendees. I know that maybe hundreds of people have been watching this webinar live at the Facebook page of Middle East University, and also in the walls of many of the attendees as they are sharing the webinar live. They are rebroadcasting it as a watch party. So thank you, every one of you. And I also want to invite you to our next webinar, which will be in 2 weeks' time on Wednesday, July 8th at the same time, 6:30 p.m. Our focus now will be the effects of the pandemic on economics at the country level. So we will have a few economics experts, and we will look at the macro level, how it is impacting our countries.
Okay,
so,
thanks.
Thank you very much, everybody.
This is all for tonight. Thank you, Refat, Amin, Nehme, and all the participants and attendees.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all. We will keep in touch. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.